Right, morning. Welcome everybody. Morning, Leah. First time with us, I believe. So good morning to you and special welcome. Are you with us? Can you hear me? Leah? No? Yes? If you can, you just need to unmute and say hi. There we
Hi
go.
there. Yes, I'm well. Yes, thank you very much. I'm here.
Good.
Let me
Well,
see if I can get this video working.
There we go. Welcome.
Is that working?
I'm welcoming Leo. Leo is an old friend. I shouldn't say old, but a long-standing friend of
Old
my husband Christopher. So it's lovely to have him on board this morning.
Yeah, that's great. Well, welcome. Okay, Ron. So yeah, we're talking about surfing. Well, a surfing analogy this morning, anyway. So yeah, do you ride the wave? Do you kick out at the top, or do you actually take the big tube? I mean, there's some amazing sights from that quick clip that I shared just before we kicked off. I think those guys are completely mad, to be perfectly honest. But each to their own, I suppose. So Lee, yeah, what's surfing all about?
I'm really going to pass the baton because I do have something to say, but whatever I say is going to reveal my ignorance. So I would much rather Trevor starts, and then I'll just ride the wave from what he says. and so I'll tell you the extent of my knowledge of surfing is the YouTube clip that I watched half an hour ago, which was very informative and I loved watching it. And also my observation of sitting out on the Durban beach and watching surfers. The surfers are watching the waves and I'm watching the surfers. So that's as far as my knowledge of surfing goes. So I have something to say, but as I say, I'm passing it on to Trevor. He can get started with this one.
And I'm told by the surfers that they're watching the girls on the beach, but I can't corroborate that. So let's just get on to this. So the topic is what? Do you ride with the wave, or you are hanging it after the wave? What is it exactly, Ivan?
So ride the wave or duck under. So,
do you ride the wave or duck under? Well, look, so I began on the beach as a surf lifesaver at Durban Surf. And there were a couple of things that we did. The individuals that ducked under the wave the best and hung in, we used to dig our hands into the sand and pull through, that came out and managed to actually allow the force of the wave to get over, allowed you to actually make the break fall around the boys and back. So that was a little trick that we used to have as surf lifesavers in those days. But riding the wave is all about momentum. And I think any business project actually requires momentum. I mean, those guys, I was watching Twig from Cape Town over the weekend, and Spider Murphy and all the boys, and how Durban surfing scene, in fact, all along the coast, the south coast, all the way through to Cape Town, the surfing scene at the moment is just super strong. As it was in the early days, and I was around when Sean Thompson was coming in, so that was in the early 70s. I used to hit the waves in a paddle ski in those days, and loved my paddle ski. The surfers didn't, because we used to annihilate a few of them. The ski was a little bit bigger than most of the surfers in those days. But I can tell you it's all about momentum. Those big wave surfers, Ivan actually showed some big wave surfers. It's all about being fearless. In fact, it's about having a certain amount of respect for the conditions and the sea, and being ready to actually face the consequences of a wipeout. Because when you get wiped out in some of these places, especially overseas, you can be wiped out on man had just a meter of water, and underneath that super sharp coral. So the consequences of being wiped out are extremely painful. But it's all about commitment. The moment that you commit, you're in, and you're in for the ride of your life in most of these. And I think what it says, perhaps the metaphor is about in business. When you commit and go with the forward momentum as far as you possibly can. And perhaps there are a couple of metaphors at the end of it. Sometimes you can actually pull out before the wave really crashes over, and you can't keep riding the shoulders left or right. And sometimes you know when to pull out because there's another wave coming along, and you go out and pick up that wave. So I think, what do you prefer? Ride with the wave or try ducking under and pulling? It depends on which way you're looking to outstrip the competition. I'd rather ride with the wave, but if you've got to get, it's sometimes to actually ride the big waves, you've actually got to, well, no, surfers tend to take the rip current out, so they know how to bypass the wave breaking. But if you actually have to get out to where the big waves are, and these waves are crunching down, then you've got to know how to actually get down to the bottom, hug that sand, kick out, get up underneath the force of that wave coming through so that you can get out to the back line as quickly as you can. And I think that's the same for business.
Sure. Okay. All right. I'm not sure I understood a word of that, but maybe Jasper, you can untangle that for us this morning.
No, I've got big respect for people like Trevor who actually mastered the balance on a board, because the big word that came up with me is balance. And I did attempt once or twice. I didn't grow up next to the sea, but you know, a few times that we went to the beach or overseas, and you stay in these hotels where they have these water sports. You know, I actually attempted to try and balance on that board, and there was something I just could not master. And it has probably to do with trying to balance on a bicycle. You have to have momentum to do it, for starters. But yeah, so the metaphors that came to me was balance, the board itself. I believe you need a certain size board for a certain size body. And then your knowledge and understanding of the water. So I'll just play around with that metaphor to say that, like business, standing on the outside and observing business people might make you think you understand business, but you haven't mastered what they've mastered. And when you do start getting into the water, I think people see the end result, that big picture of that massive wave and the tube, and they want to start there, but it's a build-up over years and putting your body on the line over before you would be able to master it. So for me, the metaphor of the wave is to say, know your equipment, learn how to use the equipment, then start in the shallow water, start taking baby steps and get your momentum. And initially, I think most of the time, the surfer is not on the board standing. Most of the time he's on his tummy paddling. You know, that's maybe the part that you don't see so often. And then my last thing is not for everybody, because I've made peace with it very quickly in my life that I'm not a surfer. I can't master it. So I moved on to other pursuits, but I have big respect for people who have mastered it. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Jasper. Yeah, I think some good points there. You know, the size of the board. So how many people do you employ for your board? Yeah, I don't know. But maybe Ed, you can answer some of those questions, being the accountant amongst us. You can add up the numbers and tell us where any of it actually works or not.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating actually that it's probably best not to use a metaphor that people really understand, because Trevor talked more about the surfing than business, and Jasper talked more about business than surfing. Now, Cornwall, where I live, is the centre of surfing in the UK. Cornwall's known for its surfing, and I don't surf. I came down here too late, I think. But it's interesting, actually, when the other day I was on a networking event and I had to chair it because the chair had gone surfing. That is how much surfing's in the culture in Cornwall. And the epicenter is Newquay in a place called Thistral Beach. And they have a thing called Boardmasters, which is a big surfing festival. But strangely enough, the accompanying music festival has become bigger than the surfing festival, and Boardmasters now is associated with music, which I think is interesting. But also on Thistral Beach, they have a thing called Agile on the beach, and Ivan might know about this. Agile is a project methodology that was adopted to account for fast-moving situations, so the telecoms industry, the computer industry. And I wonder now whether that methodology has perhaps been overtaken because things are too fast. Ivan might be able to talk more about that. But yeah, I mean, surfing, I think it's quite interesting because people spend more time waiting than doing. People will, and you saw on that clip, there were loads of people waiting to catch that wave. And then they catch the wave and they're addicted by that feeling. So when they reach the beach, they go straight back out again. Then they wait. And I think the key thing is it's selecting the right wave when it comes along. And then when that wave comes along, you have to be prepared. You have to have some forward momentum, as someone said already. So I think, the metaphor there is you have to wait and pick your choices in business, your opportunities in business. And then when they come, you have to at least have done some preparatory work. Although I spoke to the guy who I replaced on the networking and asked him, what he thought. And he made the point that the steeper the wave, the less momentum you have to have. So you haven't got to be paddling very fast when you're on a steep wave. And I think that's the same in business, isn't it? When you've got a really fast moving opportunity, you just need to grab it. You don't need to have any forward momentum. And the other thing about surfing, there's an etiquette. You would have seen on that clip, there were loads of people trying to get the one wave, but there's an etiquette about who drops out. So I think whether that exists in business, I don't know, but really, if someone's got ahead of you with an opportunity, you're probably better off not following that opportunity and waiting for another one, waiting for the next wave. And I think true entrepreneurs are like surfers. You think about Richard Branson. He does something, he gets to the beach, he gets bored, he goes out again and does something else. Elon Musk is the same, isn't he? He does something, he gets bored, he does something else. But I can never remember, Jeff Bezos, or whatever his name is, Amazon, he stuck at it. He wasn't a surfer. He stuck in there. So I think, surfers, they go out there, they do it, they go back for the next buzz, and they're quite happy to wait all day in the water for that one wave, that one high. And they'll come away from a whole day having caught one perfect wave, and they'll be happy. Except they won't be happy because they'll go out next day to try and get the next wave. And I think, that's where you get serial entrepreneurs. And I'm no good at surfing because I can't get up on the board quick enough. Now I'm old, it takes me a long time to stand up when I'm lying down. Once I'm up there, I can balance, but I can't get up. And I think it's the speed at which you take an opportunity. So once you've got that board moving, once you're in that wave, you've got to get up off the board and stand up and really ride it. And I think that's the thing about business. You've got to grab that opportunity and very quickly either be riding that wave or going out the back. So that's my thoughts on it. But I'd love to hear Ivan's views about whether Agile is still relevant.
Well, we can certainly have a chat on that topic as well. I think it'll be another whole discussion, and perhaps an interesting one. I'm not sure. But yeah, Ed, I think maybe your lack of speed is due to your ultramarathon running, probably rather more than your age. So I've seen guys who've gone into long distance running when I used to play a lot of squash, and definitely slowed them down on the squash court, that's for sure. So I can imagine it would slow you down on the surfboard too. Anyway, that's a bit of an aside. So Leo, you've had a bit of an insight into how we go about these things in the morning here. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic and anything else you'd like to add.
Well, yes, thank you. Interesting topic. A couple of months ago read a story about a surfer who got paralyzed, and he was desperately unhappy in the hospital, saying, well, surfing was his life. And as he was starting to heal, because now he's paralyzed, what was his life going to be? And his friends encouraged him. And what was interesting is that they came up with, having surfed the net, they came up with somebody surfing as a paralyzed person. And they designed a chair on a board. And he said, well, if I can't, how did he put it? If I can't walk, I can fly. And he now is a major sit kite surfer. Came to Bloberg, I think a year or two ago, and kind of won the paralysed section of sit kite surfing, and he's trying to open up the aspect of surfing for paraplegics. And I think for me, you guys, listening to you guys talking about this metaphor, I think, in life, sometimes there are moments where you are thrown off where you are, and so not able to achieve the type of things you're wanting to achieve. And by opening yourself up to an opportunity that is way out of your experience, because he's never experienced sit kite surfing before. It opened up a whole new way of life for him. If I'm not mistaken, his name is Willem. He's a Dutch guy, Willem. Can't remember his surname. But anyway, he was quite an inspiration to me those months back when I was in lockdown with Dad. So yeah, my little contribution to this discussion.
Great, thanks, Leo. Yeah, right, Lee, your thoughts on surfing, theoretical as they may be.
Yeah, so I love what Leo was saying, surfing the net. So I surfed the net to find out more about surfing, and I watched this incredible video on how to catch a green wave. So that now makes me an expert. And and there were some really interesting ideas that came out of it. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to position yourself. If you're too far in, you're just going to get the waves that are going to crash on you. If you're too far out, you're just going to get the little plops. So you need to be in the right position. And how do you know where the right position is? Most of the waves are more or less in that place. However, the key is watch where the experienced people are surfing. Watch where they're sitting. So, and they also make the point is it's not, the waves aren't going to the right wave isn't going to be at the same place all the time. So you kind of edge this way and edge this way. And so you're positioning yourself in different ways, checking with the experienced guys, checking the conditions, seeing what the waves are like. And I just think that's also really important for us. And I think it's one of the things that we're doing here at Wisdom's Chats when we talk about trends, when we're watching the news, when we're listening to each other, we're observing what's happening in business, is we're looking at the horizon, we're watching the conditions, we're paying attention to the more experienced people in various industries. And especially because conditions are changing so much at the moment, we're having to pay extra special attention to people who are a little bit ahead of us. And so I think that was the one thing that I found really, really helpful. The other is, and I think, Jasper spoke about it, is that actually the size of your board helps, or it matters, or the type of board, and that certain boards are going to help you to get up or to manage the wave better than others. And so the vehicle that you have actually is also important. And so you have to check the strength, the durability, the size, and your familiarity, that it's practice. This isn't something, that is going to come overnight. You actually have to know and be very familiar with your board. And then the other thing is the skill. There is skill. I know Trevor spoke a lot about momentum, but Jasper pointed out, you have to actually get up on that board. And they were describing how at a certain point in the wave, you put your head down to be able to get that momentum but then you have to arch your back to be able to stand up again. So I can do this really, really well because I've watched a guy on YouTube do this. And so I'm demonstrating with absolute brilliance. But I know that if I had to go out and do that, I'm going to land flat on my face because I haven't practiced, and I've seen what it takes to practice. You start on the beach. You don't start in the waves. You start, and I've seen the guys doing the turtle paddle, right, on the beach, where so that you've got the right motion. And again, I think it's just that we laugh about this takes 10 years or 14 years to become an overnight success, because there's a certain amount of beach work you have to do before you get into the sea. And then when you get into the sea, you practice on the baby waves before you get to the big waves. And I think Edward made that point. And then, but once you're up, it's just about staying on. It's just about you're now in that motion. And the wave does the work. And that's the magic of it. And I think that's why we're so entranced with this idea of waves, because when you watch somebody actually catch that wave, it's so magical and beautiful and so in sync. And so that it looks easy. And you think, oh, I can do that. I can do that. And that's what takes you out. I've got to try again. I've got to try again. And so there is something, that waves, we look for those waves because there is something that's so thrilling about that experience. And then Edward said something that really struck me when he spoke about etiquette, because I've also noticed this a lot, and I've not noticed, but I've always asked the question, how do they know who takes that wave? What is their little surfer signals, and is there a hierarchy, or, you know, is it a nod or a wink, you know, okay, you take this one. I'm Trevor's smiling, so maybe he can answer that. So, but I've always wondered what the surfer code is for you take this wave. But for me, when Edward said that, it suddenly struck me, doesn't matter if this guy takes this wave, because there's another wave. And it's that mindset of abundance. It's that I might lose this one, but that's okay. I'm going out the next day. There'll be another one. It might not be as big as that one, but if I practice on this one, the bigger one will still come. And if I practice long enough, I'll be able to get to the place where there are bigger and bigger waves. So, and then I loved Leo's point is that even if everything comes crashing down and you can't surf those waves anymore, you can invent something new. You can create something that is made for you in your circumstances. You'll still catch waves. The abundance is still there. There's never a lost opportunity. It's just a different one in a different shape, in a different way, and you just keep going out and you'll catch them. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on the topic. Ivan.
Right, thanks, Lee. Yeah, so I don't know. I think maybe you've all got it wrong. I mean, if you listen to people like Branson and a few others, what does he say? Screw it, let's do it. You know, what's all this preparation and practice and, you know, grabbing onto the sand and, you know, waiting for other people. You know, just do it. You know, become a Nike proponent. You know, just do it. And anyway, but yeah, I think it is an interesting metaphor. I think I mean, I've got a couple of little stories that came to mind as we were chatting. If you know of Stephen Kotler, author and high performance expert, in his younger days he had Lyme's disease. He was bedridden for an extended period of time. Got to a point where he was really struggling to get out of bed for an hour a day, and you know, even then he had people that he needed to actually help him get up and move about. And he used to be a surfer before he got Lyme's disease. And one day, one of his mates came to his house and said, "Hey, Boykie, time to get up. We're going surfing." And he said, "What do you mean? You know, I'm bedridden here. I'm useless." He said, "No, we're going surfing." Took him out and got him into the water and got him onto a board. And you know, over the next 6 to 10 months, he actually recovered. He came right, and he's now back pretty healthy. Although he smokes like a chimney, which I don't really understand. But that's another thing entirely. But yeah, I mean, the adrenaline, I think, is part of what actually gets the system going, and I think that's what it's really all about. You know, I think you can spend too much time waiting, too much time lying around, too much time sleeping. You know, you need to get out there. You need to get the adrenaline pumping. You need to get into the flow and make things happen. And I think for me, that's what it's really all about. I don't think it matters the size of the wave. I don't think it matters about the competition. I don't think it matters about any of those things. I think what really matters is what do you do? What are you doing? You know, how are you actually doing it? And you know, what do they say? You know, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. I think the harder you practice, the better you get. And what did Oscar say, Trevor? Yeah, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So make sure you're practicing the right things. Because whatever you practice is going to become permanent. So start practicing the right things. I think, you know, the point that everyone's made is, you know, you see the experts out there, you know, use them, you know, watch them, see how they're doing it to improve yourself, but don't let it have you hang back, because you never know when that right moment is actually going to be there. And if you're busy hanging back watching the crowds, guess what? You're going to miss it. So I think it's, for me, I think Trevor's word momentum, I think, is great, a great word. You know, you need to have some momentum, even if the wave is steep. You know, if you're sitting flat on your board, doesn't matter how steep the wave is, you're either going to get dumped or you're going to fall off the back. So you need some kind of forward momentum in the process. Yeah, and just to finish off, I think one of the stories that Stephen Kotler brings out in his book, The Rise of Superman, was about, and I forget the guy's name, Trevor, you might remember, but he was one of the major big wave surfers quite a few years ago. And the guys used to talk about, you know, the 50+ footer waves that they used to catch, and you needed to be towed out by a jet ski or a rubber duck to actually catch those waves, because nobody believed that you could actually catch those waves without assistance. And this guy actually developed a methodology and actually caught the very first 50-foot wave without any assistance, and now multiple guys are doing it. So it just takes one person to get out there and do it, and suddenly the old barriers are broken. And I think that's you know, that's really what it's all about, is screw it, let's do it. So yeah, that's those are my thoughts on it. So yeah, Lee, I think back to you to see if you got something in mind for tomorrow morning, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe just continue this in a way, and it's we've spoken about riding the wave, but you know, what about going under, or what about actually being dunked? And that was one of the things that I saw in these sort of few of the surfing videos, and you see it as well, is that, okay, there's that moment where you catch that tube, and I mean, it's you're in that perfect zone, but that happens every now and again. A lot of the times that wave, it hits you. And as Trevor said, you know, sometimes it's you coming down hard, and so that's part of the metaphor. But another completely different story that I've been thinking about recently is, and Ivan reminded me of it, in terms of Stephen Kotler and the Lyme's disease, and it's Robert Louis Stevenson as a little boy sitting in his bed because he's sick. And I'm just thinking of people, you know, during lockdown, during COVID, isolated, not being able to get out, the normal things that they would be able to do, and maybe being crushed by the circumstances, or feeling like the walls are closing in some kind of way. And this little boy created entire worlds on his counterpane, on his bed counterpane, that then led to him becoming this incredible author and poet and legend. I mean, we still talk about him today. And so it's, what is it that happens? So that's my question, is how do we get up? What is it that, you know, you've been done, something's happened. What does it take to get up again? So I think let's just leave it at that for the moment.
All right, great. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, everyone. So have a great day further. I hope you can get up in the morning and join us again at 8 o'clock, and we'll be chatting about exactly that. So have a great one, and we'll see you then. Go well. Cheers.